Watch the real-life program about exceptional destinies, remarkable opportunities, and unbelievable facts right now.
I'm a German, a son of the Kazakh people. That's what he says. His name is known in many parts of the world. He knows exactly what time is. He's a doctor of historical sciences, professor of archaeology, and a scientist of world renown. The Botai culture is a sensation of the 20th century and his discovery. Botai men thought, well, hello, steppe. Time to saddle up. I will ride all over. Victor Seibert, find your Atlantis. Dedication to the archaeologist. To dig in a dream and in reality. Happy together. He says he doesn't write poems. Nevertheless, he's reading one of his own. The descendants are waiting with hope. What will they take from us? Prosperous land and tales of deeds. Acts of tales for him began here at Botai. Already the 4th decade, he observes how the landscape changed around him. Change is encouraging, after all. When he, the young archaeologist, came here for the first time, he was surrounded by a wormwood dusty steppe. The forests were dying. It was the result of development, says Victor, or rather, regression. We have forbidden entry to cars, tractors and cattle. Now everything here delights the eye. A feather grass grows up and the trees are young. This is the gratitude of nature, this forest in gratitude to give birth to small pines. Victor Seibert is sure both nature and memory are necessary to be taken carefully. He says the earth is our common home. What he does not like the most is indifference. And what he likes best is when the eyes of those who are close to him glow. Once upon a time, Earthmen walked, returning from a hunt with a heavy burden. Towards them, a horse moved gracefully and wild, with a mane of fire. Saddle the horse and you'll catch up with time. A poetic story about how it all began, how he found his Atlantis. This is his main discovery and whole life's work, and he's sitting tight in his saddle. Botai. In these expanses in the era of the Neolithic, the horse was domesticated, and for the first time we tasted kummeß. Archaeological monument of Botai was opened in 1980, a settlement of the Neolithic age. Approximately 6,000 years ago, Botai people tamed the horse for the first time on the planet. The Botai man typically mounted his horse, and he at once invented leather pants, because you cannot ride a horse without pants. He invented boots. Here you take and then you come here. Under strict guidance, you work better. The basis of any archaeological expedition are the diggers themselves. As a rule, they're recruited from among students, schoolchildren, and enthusiasts of different professions or ages. History, as usual, is replenished with archaeology, but archaeology with enthusiasts who are very curious to see beyond your nose and into the depths of the centuries past. There is a psychological point when you look at a person and ask the question, what do you see? First, what he should say is the nose. In the famous jars of Maykebia in the 18th century, the Kazakhs met each other and said, Well, how is your big nose doing? This, of course, is not quite an archaeological story, rather an anthropological one. But without anthropology, linguistics, chemistry, and a dozen other disciplines, you'll not be digging much in archaeology. How can you see the stars in the afternoon? Do you know? Well, we must descend into a well. And from the depths of this dark corridor, we can see the stars in the sky in the afternoon. So, having a systemic knowledge from the very roots of mankind, we can understand at what stage what cultural values appear. This is always the case when you're striving for high. Dig deeper. It's the life principle of Victor Zibert. We can talk about cultural values for hours, about himself sparingly, smiling with embarrassment. Science is my destiny, and my happiness is that I realized this from a young age, says Victor. His parents, like many Germans, were deported to Kazakhstan from the Volga region. Well, I was born at the Ishim. I was very interested to be on the Ishim among the thickets. I always collected pebbles there. Mum always sewed me old pockets. I collected old glasses all the time. This is how his love for archaeology was born. Although he grew up in a family of musicians, he played on many instruments and even headed an ensemble, and Victor was accepted to the music school without exams, then, as if in a dream, more precisely, Zibert had a dream that he could not be Mozart or Bach. He went to study history. The history in school was very interesting. Literature I was fond of. I was told by the teacher, you need to be a writer. I read a lot of fiction, biography about artists, and a lot of interesting other things. But he did not become a writer. He does not regret it, however. He kept his love for fiction. When books are on the shelves, they talk to each other, and at that time of life, a person goes on his own way. What once went in its turn becomes the property of archaeology through the centuries. Apparently, the first professional archaeologist was the last king of Babylon, Nabonidus. According to clay tablets in the 6th century BC, he set out to find inscriptions of ancient kings and therefore disturb the ruins of old temples. All the finds were carefully described and systematized. Any archaeological find can become a discovery. This day, a lot was discovered. Ah, look, I see something interesting here. In total, during 4 decades in Botai, more than 2,000 pieces were found, says Victor proudly. We did not work all these days in the settlement. There were years when we were distracted by other finds. Guys, enough over there, I think. It's time to return to the camp with the next finds. Why are archaeologists so happy? Because this is their fanaticism. Fanatics can be archaeologists, often. Shards and bones. Archaeological material is neatly laid out on the table. He has order and discipline in everything. The main thing is to find the right angle. If you see something that no one else has seen, then you'll certainly tell something that no one has yet heard of, says Victor.
В этом плане я всегда вспоминаю у Экзюпери.
In this regard, I always remember Exupéry's Little Prince. He comes up to an adult and asks, "What is this?" "This is a hat." And the prince says, "No, this is an elephant swallowed by a boa."
Он говорит: "Нет, это удав проглотил слона."
The hypothesis of Victor Zybert is the forced migrants from the Black Sea region gave impetus to the development of the Batai culture. There was a flood, perhaps there was the famous Atlantis. It began with the 6th and 5th millennium, and the formation of the Black Sea Basin provoked these processes. This is the so-called last flood. This last flood made this population move out, which lived in such sunny valleys. And when the water passed through, some of the population died, some went underwater, and some went to the steppes in advance. They saw a huge number of horses. They knew how to domesticate cattle, and they domesticated these horses. It's only at first glance that archaeologists work with shovels and scrapers. The archaeologist digs with his head, mostly through books.
Интересно, вот в одном из раскопов мы нашли большой красивый утюжок.
It's interesting that in one of the excavations we found a large, beautiful ironing massive. And imagine, I found an analogy with the veterinarians of the Indian horse-breeding tribes. Among veterinary tools, they also had such irons.
Лошади у индейцев. И там среди ветеринарных инструментов присутствовал вот такой утюжок.
The Kokshetau Museum of Regional Studies. These irons next to the reconstruction of the Batai settlement. These are symbolic forms. Here it is. This is also incomprehensible. Above these incomprehensible symbols still have to be deciphered, supposing they were used in shamanic rituals which no one else knows about, or it is someone's unread message. You know, well, archaeologists are usually hard to surprise with anything. And it's still amazing when your personal things become museum exhibits. Petropavlov's local history museum, in front of the entrance to the Hall of Batai Culture, there's a showcase on the left, and there is the archaeological diary of Victor Zybert. What is the researcher's problem? I believe one of the biggest problems, we uncontrollably impoverish our ancestors. We came to this world and think we are the most intelligent, and all the rest before us were primitive. No, we, modern people, are not the smartest, I'm sure, says Zybert. Homo sapiens has not changed in 50,000 years at all. They compared Einstein's brains and a drunkard's and could not find any difference. Find the difference and make the right choice. Sitting on a bench, he tells stories not for the camera. 2 days after the wedding, he headed off on an expedition. His wife put up an ultimatum, either me or science. He said with no doubt, you and archaeology. Already, more than 40 years they're happy together. To love the family, to love science, and to love your land. Let the Kazakhs be proud walking through the centuries. We have the first horse, we have the first kumus. From us, the first ship started and went skyward. So history teaches its land to love and never forget the deeds of our ancestors.